Last time in part 1, we sat down with Mark Nestle, president of the Cresswind Community Fund. We got the origin story how a neighborhood of retirees quietly built something quite remarkable.
And the response was incredible. Turns out people want to know more.
So we brought Mark back, and this time he brought a friend with him. Well, actually, Michael Lipsitt is our friend too.
He spent his career as a cardiologist, but in retirement, he's doing something that might surprise you, volunteering at the Good News Clinic right here in Gainesville, serving patients who have nowhere else to turn.
And the Cresswind Community Fund helps make that possible. Today, we're going deeper into what it actually looks like when a neighborhood decides its job isn't done at its own front gate. I'm Lauren Price.
And I'm Andy Waterman.
And this is Gainesville Who Knew? Before we dive in, for someone in Gainesville, Hall County who may have never heard of Cresswind Community Fund, how would you describe it in plain terms?
So, the Cresswind at Lake Lanier is a community in southwest part of Gainesville, and there's about 950 homes here, close to a couple thousand residents, and we've come together, created a 501c3 so that through our member donations, we can help enhance the lives of people in Hall County. But our mission focus is 55 plus.
Is there a formal mission statement?
Yeah, there is. It's the mission of the Cresswind LL Community Fund is to enhance the lives of adults, primarily 55 and older, through charitable contributions, education, health-related, and cultural opportunities exclusively for Gainesville and Hall County. So sort of a neighbors helping our neighbors. Many of us here have had very blessed lives, and we're trying to help others to enrich and enhance their lives here in the county.
Yeah, that's great. So Cresswind is an active adult community. How does a fund like this get organized, and who are the people that make it run day to day?
And there's a lot there. It was organized 10 years ago, a small group, 35 or so people, and that it's grown over the years. We have still a very flat, very simple organization, but yet we have almost 1,000 members. We're led by a board of directors, and those the directors are elected by the members. They are a 2-year term, and so we have it set up with a rotation. So every year, some of the directors get elected or re-elected. Obviously, we seek nominees from the membership, and then there are a whole series of committees, and this is how a lot of the neighbors get involved. There's a fundraising committee. There's a grant committee. There's a committee that runs our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program. There's a Help Me Please committee that manages that. There's a finance committee. There's a communications committee. We even have an events committee that helps set up for our annual golf tournament, or helps set up for our members' meetings. And through that group of people, that's how people can help out. Every single one of those folks is involved not only in the community fund, but in some other charity in Hall County somewhere. It's amazing.
You know, the whole premise of Gainesville Who Knew is that Andy and I keep discovering new things about Gainesville. And one of the things is how giving this community is.
Yeah, I'm surprised every day every time we do a fundraiser, we're always
shocked in a good way.
Shocked in a good way. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right word, but anyway, that we're always, our hearts are always filled with the generosity of people. We've never, in the time I've been associated with the community fund, been a situation where, wow, we're doing Help the Hungry, and we don't have goals. We just run the campaign, and then we see how much is contributed,
and then you give it.
And then we give it back to we give. Not on average, 95% or more of what is taken in goes out to these grants. And like last year, there were some issues because of the government shutdown. So a lot of the places around the county were hurt, and people have to make life decisions. So we ran a Help the Hungry campaign explaining that to people. And we've got more than we anticipated. And we give to 10 different food banks. And it's amazing because our gift allows them to do so much more. So we were able to help not only for Thanksgiving, but also for Christmas and beyond. So this is a wonderfully giving community.
Can you paint a picture of where the dollars actually go and what organizations have you supported?
Sure.
You mentioned a few.
Well, we give to Good News at Noon. We give to Good News Clinic, and that one's a really effective one because with the clinic, they know the age of the person. And we give to Sunshine Seniors. There are statistics that show that well over half of the people in our area in the food banks are 50 or older, which is unfortunate, but it's a reality. And so we've given to now Grandparents Raising Grandchildren is a unique program because we do the vetting ourselves of the family, and we don't give the money to the family. We help them with rent or this payment, and so it goes to the company where their need is, or for a car payment to bridge them because something's happened. And we find out about those folks through other organizations. An interesting one, Good News Clinic knows about us. We've given to them for years, and they had a patient come in for one of the mammograms that we had donated to the clinic for, and they're talking to the patient, find out that she's a grandparent raising grandchildren, so they told her about us, and they referred her to us. So amazing how the network works. There's another organization, St. Vincent de Paul, through the local Catholic churches, and they do a great job of vetting for us, so we know that if they've come, it's legit,
So, speaking of Good News Clinic, I know that's one of your primary partners, and how did that relationship come about?
The connection was initially made by Cresswinders who were already volunteering in that organization. And it turns out one of the people that was very active, Russ Williams, and a couple of other volunteers from Cresswind, they told Good News Clinic about the community fund and realized, well, hey, you're doing this activity that fits the mission of the community fund. You should apply for a grant to the community fund. And that started the relationship.
So coincidentally, next we are going to be talking to Dr. Michael Lipsitt, who is a resident in Cresswind and a Good News Clinic volunteer. Can you tell us a little about your background and what drew you to volunteer at the Good News Clinic after retiring?
First of all, let me thank you for allowing me to be interviewed. This all started back in high school when I was asked to be the team trainer. So I was called Doc in high school. And shortly after that, Hershey, where they make the chocolate bars, gave Penn State $50 million to build a medical center, which was built 12 miles from my home. So I watched the place being built. So I wanted in college always to go to medical school there. So I was the third class as they got finished many years ago. Coming to Hall County, there's a project which you know of called Wisdom, yes, which I believe you've talked about a bunch. And people are very philanthropic at Cresswind. And as part of that, a lot of them go to the Wisdom program where they find ways to contribute to the community. And of course, I'm a physician, so there's not much that I could do that would be unclogging drains or painting painting your mailbox or blasting your sidewalks. And so someone encouraged me to get involved with Good News Clinic as a way of contributing back to the community. For a while, I thought about having a little clinic here at Cresswind, but that's not feasible because you need a support staff to run a medical practice. So that's a little bit how I started to volunteer there.
What does a typical shift look like? And who are the people walking through the door, and what do they need?
Well, my role at the clinic is, since I'm a cardiologist, to see the cardiac patients. They don't have a specific cardiologist on staff there. So I see patients with high blood pressure, heart failure, valvular disease, cardiac rhythm problems, and things like that, just their medications. And see them as a primary physician with cardiology in mind.
Is there a patient or a moment that has stayed with you? One that captures why this work matters?
You know, I saw your list of questions. It didn't take a second. When I first started at the clinic, my wife Darla, who, as you know, is a tax commissioner, so everyone knows her, has a niece who is self-employed, but she runs the family business. Her dad had a stroke, and so she does the work. They have an egg business. And she's diabetic. She's not very, she has a lot of medical challenges. And she had a terrible ulcer that would normally require an amputation of her leg, which is so common in diabetes. Well, the Good News Clinic helped her, and her leg is fully recovered now. Her leg has been saved because of that clinic. The other thing I noticed about her care, being an outsider but being a family member, that they keep the dignity of people at the Good News Clinic. There's not like they're doing you a big favor. It's an honor to serve people, and that's a wonderful part of medicine that's sometimes lost in bigger institutions.
I know that other than medical care, the Good News Clinic provides other services. Can you talk about that?
That's also an excellent question. You know, it's the largest free clinic in the state of Georgia. It struck me right away that they have a dental service. So whatever, 35 or 40 years ago, whenever this clinic started, the doctors in town went to the dentist and said, you guys are going to come here too. And they've been active ever since. There's very hard to get dentists to come to the hospital or any free clinic setting, because they're so office intensive. I guess it's hard for them to get outside of the office. They also have mental health, they have eye services, things that you just don't expect in a free clinic. You would just think it's a place to get drugs if you qualify financially, but they do a lot more than just medicine.
What does it mean to you knowing that your neighbors at Cresswind are helping fund the work that you do as a volunteer?
I think it's great. The story that comes to mind about Cresswind, I also found out from my wife, is when Cresswind was built, people said, oh, here's all these rich people behind a fence in a beautiful place with a waterfall, and there are probably a lot of snobs. But when Cresswind Community Fund started and gave money to the food banks and all the other good charitable things they do, everybody now says, oh, Cresswind, we love them. We rely on them for helping so many of our philanthropic programs. It really makes Cresswind shine. As you know, they recently just honored all the first responders, which is something that's not done in other communities around.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my privilege to do so.
So the Good News Clinic is only one of the organizations that you've helped. How do you find other organizations, or how do they find you?
Great question, because we know that there's more need than what we've been reaching over the last few years. And so aside from Cresswinders who volunteer in a lot of these organizations, we need to get the word out more. Our mission is 50 plus, primarily 50 plus, but any organizations in Hall County that are assisting seniors, they can reach out to us on our website, cwcfund.org. You can actually send in an email, and it'll come to me as the president or others, and we can then get together with the organization and find out if it's a good fit. We also look to anybody in Hall County who's maybe a volunteer at one of these organizations. And if you know somebody from, your church or some other, organization that you work in, or playing pickleball or tennis or something, and you know a Cresswinder, use that network, because we're always looking for new organizations where we can help out. And if the need increases, we'll run fundraisers to try to meet that need. And the Cresswind community has been amazing in stepping up for those sort of things.
Yeah. So you have just reached an amazing milestone, $1 million. What a milestone for a neighborhood fund. What does that number represent to you in human terms, not just dollars?
Well, it's, first of all, as you said, it's pretty amazing for, a community of under 2,000 people to, over the span of 10 years, be able to contribute over $1 million to the charities. But it's also finding those charities where donations to the grants have the greatest benefit. For example, with the food banks, if we go out and buy food from Publix or Kroger and give it to them, the money, the dollar transaction, and that's going to be a wonderful thing to do that. But the dollar transaction is actually far less effective than if we gave the money to the food bank. They can sometimes get really good quality food for 10 cents on a dollar of what we would pay. You may see those advertised, feed somebody for $1 a day. You think, how can they do that? It's because they're going through governmental food sources. The other thing is, we find a lot of times with some of the other programs where we're providing that bridge funding for rent or electric bill or something that keeps that family from getting into a much deeper hole that they can't get out of. You know, if we pay 3 months rent for somebody, look at the cost if they were to get foreclosed on, or if they were to lose their apartment and now they're homeless and they lose all their possessions because they're homeless, and how do you build that back up again? You know, another program that we partner with, Habitat for Humanity, has a program called Aging in Place. And it's to help seniors stay in the home that they've been in by making modifications, ramps or whatever, those sort of things. Well, we contribute to that. So Habitat does the vetting, and they actually have the contractors to do the work, and we contribute. And now some senior can stay in their home and in their neighborhood that they're comfortable in, as opposed to having to now pay rent somewhere. Well, that's all sunk costs that they lose. So the dollars really go a lot further than the face value of the dollar, the way some of these charities are so effective in managing their funds.
Mark, not to get too personal, but what keeps you motivated? What keeps you doing this great work?
Well, I'm just actually one of dozens and dozens of volunteers we have. But what really excites me, what brings the smile and the warmth to my heart, is when you hear some of the stories, how our little organization was able to help make a change in the direction of somebody's life. You know, having gone in the last fall with the checks to the food banks and seeing the folks there and realizing the difference we were making. We had one example of grandparents raising grandchildren. We found out about a grandmother who, through a lot of circumstances, had ended up losing their house, and they were living in a tent next to their car. And between us and another organization, we were able to get them into an apartment and get them back on their feet again. And for the kids, that's almost generational change, because those kids are not homeless and right on the edge when they go to school. They've now got a Chromebook, they've got clean clothes, they've bathed, they've got warm meals. That changes the trajectory of their lives.
Yeah.
That stuff,
that's what keeps you going.
that's what gets to me, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so where do you see the fund going from here? Is $1 million the ceiling, or is it just the beginning?
Well, we don't set targets. Like a business might say, here's our 3-year plan or whatever. What we're really trying to do is find out more need. How can we help more? And then we'll run fundraising campaigns to try to meet that need. I certainly would not like to see it go backwards to where we're giving less. You know, at least sustain this level and grow over time like the organization has grown over time. And to partner with other charities, like I mentioned, Habitat and some of the others, where we can do more because they can do more. And I think that's the future, is the partnership of charities helping people.
Finish this sentence for me. If Hall County residents can take just one thing from this conversation, I hope
they realize how much they can do. Here in Cresswind, because we're this organized community, we set up the community fund and we have that. There are plenty of neighborhoods. There are plenty of HOAs and communities around Hall County that could do similar things. But even just individuals, get involved. The need is far greater than people realize. And what a blessing it is to be able to help somebody else live a little bit better because of your time or your funds. Everybody can make a difference.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I was really honored to have time to talk about a community fund today.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on our website, GainesvilleWhoKnew.com. Leave us a review and share it with someone who loves our community as much as we do.
And now you can watch our episodes on YouTube. Just put Gainesville Who Knew in the search bar and enjoy.
I'm Lauren Price.
I'm Andy Waterman. Thanks for joining us on Gainesville Who Knew.
We'll see you next time.